guys? It's Team SoulBlaze, blazing back in with another EDO Yugioh deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment any other deck profiles or fights that you guys want to see, and burn up the subscribe button. So let's get this started. First up, we got 3 copies of Fortune Lady Earth. So as you can tell, this is already a Fortune Lady deck. So level 6, not like that matters to an extent. Questionable attack points, questionable defense points. That's a shared thing between all Fortune Ladies. They all have unknown attack and defense. Earth attribute. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 400. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's level by 1, max 12. If the level of this card increases, inflict 400 points of damage to your opponent. That is important because this deck basically focuses on having your monsters stay around until the standby phase of your next turn, increase the level, which therefore increases their attack points, since their attack points are based on their level times some unknown number, which is really good because by itself, its base power will already be 2400 as long as your opponent doesn't fuck with its numbers. So really good card, and when it levels up, it deals effect damage, which is awesome because I'm not gonna lie, I have actually screwed over people with this and a very certain other cards that just deals them good amounts of effect damage and Fs them over in battles. So all around, good card, 3 copies. Plus it's one of my favorites. Next up is Fortune Lady Dark. Dark attribute, level 5, and attack and defense are unknown yet. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 400, so same as Earth, so its base power will be 2000. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase the card's level by 1, max 12. When your Fortune Lady monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can target one Fortune Lady monster in your graveyard and special summon it. That's really useful, because you can, like, say your opponent killed your other Fortune Ladies because, you know, they're probably weak at this moment. You can kill their monster with another Fortune Lady, or this one, it's up to you, and then you can bring back that Fortune Lady that's in your graveyard. So, good card, has a base power of 2000, and can still raise its level, so one of my favorite cards too, mostly because of its ability, so 3 copies. 3 copies of a really decent card, and that belongs in the Fortune Ladies even if it's not one itself. Solitaire Magician. 1600 attack, 1300 defense, level 4, light attribute. Once per turn, you can select one face-up Fortune Lady monster you control and one other face-up monster on the field. Reduce the level of the selected Fortune Lady by 3 and destroy the other selected monster. So pretty much pick a Fortune Lady, weaken it for 3 turns, and then destroy a monster in the opponent's field. So really useful, and you know, destroy stuff. So 3 copies. 3 copies of my all-around favorite Fortune Lady for a very good reason, and I'll say why. So water attribute, Fortune Lady Water by the way, level 4, and its ability. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 300. Once per turn during your standby phase, increases the card's level by 1, max 12. If this card is special summoned while you control a Fortune Lady monster except for Fortune Lady Water, draw 2 cards. That's useful because this deck can do a lot of special summoning, and you get to draw a bunch of free cards, and that's really useful with the helping with drawing. For example, my favorite play to do is call out water, hopefully try to keep it alive, and then use it as a sacrifice for dark. Then I use dark to kill something on their field. Then I use dark skill, bring back water, water skill, I get to draw 2, and water just goes in there and attacks them directly. So really good combo, it gets you hand cards, and you can just keep sacrificing water. Like, I'll sacrifice water again for Earth, and then I'll just keep bringing it back and keep getting hand cards, so I never run out. So, really good card, amazing combo right here with anything in the deck, especially with Dark, so I like it a lot. So 3 copies of it. 3 copies of Fortune Lady Wind. Wind attribute, level 3. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 300. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase the card's level by 1, max 12. And when this card is normal summoned, you can destroy spells or traps on your opponent's field equal to the number of Fortune Lady monsters you control. That's useful because as soon as it's summoned, well, normally, you can destroy at least 1 spell or trap, and it gets more and more over time. Not to mention that its base power is 900, which is kind of weak, but it's still useful because it just nukes spells and traps. So all around, really useful card, 3 copies. 3 copies of Fortune Lady Fire. So level 2 fire attribute. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 200. So this is kind of like a weaker card because it only has 400 attack points. Once per turn during standby phase, increases card levels by 1, max 12. And when this card is special summoned in attack position by the effect of a Fortune Lady card, the only one this could actually be is probably Dark or one of your trap cards. To target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's attack on the field. That's really useful. Just, you know, sack it for Dark if this thing somehow stays alive long enough, and then just attack with Dark, kill something, and then use this thing's effect to deal them effect damage. So good combo all around, 3 copies. Dark is like the main combo card here. Try to protect this thing and anything you're going to use to sacrifice it with. Next up is Fortune Lady Light. Level 1 and Light attribute. This card's attack and effects becomes its level times 200. This is one of the weaker Fortune Ladies since its base power is already going to be 200. Once per turn during your standby phase, increases card levels by 1, max is 12. When this face-up card leaves the field by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck. So if it's banished, if it's shuffled into the deck, if it's bounced, and if it's sent to the graveyard by effect-wise, then you can pretty much bring out any Fortune Lady from your deck. This deck can do a lot of banishing. I just suggest play that banishing card, then use it to banish this, and then bring out this thing, or anything in here that could be useful in the situation. But mostly you want to bring out this thing on the first attempt if you're going to do that, and then bring out Dark. But all around, really broken card when comboed with literally almost any spell in this deck, so 3 copies. 3 copies of Fortune Lady Past. Level 1, Dark attribute. This card's attack and defense become its level times 200. Once per turn during your standby phase, increases card levels by 1, max 12. You can target 1 face-up Fortune Lady monster you control. Banish any number of other spellcaster monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard. If you do, increase or reduce that monster's level by the number of monsters banished until the end of the turn. You can only use this effect of Fortune Lady Past once per turn. So this is a tuner. There's only 1 synchro in this deck, and that's actually helpful, believe it or not, because, it helps you get out synchros faster, because this deck, technically speaking, can get out the synchro on the first turn. If you are smart enough to get it out, then I will commend you for that. But this helps you if you can't, because you can abuse it to an extent, and just get out a free synchro just by banishing like 1 card. So, good card, 3 copies. Now onto the spells. 3 copies of Fortune Lady Calling. So if you control a Fortune Lady monster, special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck with a different name from the cards you control. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card effect resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except for synchro monsters. You can only activate 1 Fortune Lady Calling once per turn. So pretty much special summon a Fortune Lady, do a thing with it. So it can get you Earth, it can get you Dark, it can get you any of these boys, or girls, I guess. So helpful, resourceful, and it just lets you get out synchros. So 3 copies. 3 copies of Fortune's Future. Target 1 of your banished Fortune Lady monsters, return it to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards. So that's helpful. For some reason, if any of these got banished permanently by any means, you can just get it back and then you get a free draw. So they thought you could get rid of them. Guess what? You can't. Get back in the graveyard and draw 2 cards. So really screws around other banishing decks. So 3 copies. 3 copies of the card that you want to lay down and that I sometimes use as a trap. Of Time Passage. You can target 1 Fortune Lady monster you control, increase that card's level by 3 until the end of the turn. So yes, it only temporarily increases their attack points, but to be fair, that's actually really good, because combo with Earth, granted it will only do 400 points of damage because it's all in 1 move, but its attack points will go up by 1200. Same for this one, and this one will go up by 900, and this one will also go up by 900, etc. So just play it face down, have your opponent ram into a monster that they think is going to be strong enough to beat our monster, and then just play it, and then, oh, whoop-de-doo, they ran into an attack that they can't actually win. So 3 copies. 3 copies of the field spell, Future Visions. Each time a monster is normal summoned, target that monster, banish it. During the next standby phase of the player who controlled that monster, return it to the field in face-up attack mode. So, pretty much, play this, call Light, use this thing's skill, banish Light, use Light skill, bring out Earth, because technically since Earth is being special summoned, it doesn't affect by this. Your opponent normal summons a monster, they don't get to keep it, and they're just locked down and have to watch you beat their ass. So 3 copies. 3 copies of Fortune Vision. So a continuous spell, when this card is activated, you can add 1 Fortune Lady card from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, if a card you control is banished by a card effect, you can activate this effect. This turn, monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, and once per turn, if a card your opponent controls is banished by a card effect, you can make the next battle damage you take this turn become 0, even if this card leaves the field. You can only activate 1 Fortune Visions per turn. So, pretty much, when activated, you search your deck for Fortune Lady, add it to hand, and you basically can screw around with your opponent as long as stuff keeps getting banished. This thing, traps I have yet to go over yet. Literally anything in this deck that could probably banish will meet the conditions of this card. Okay, now into traps. 3 copies of Inherited Fortune. Activate during the turn of a face-up Fortune Lady monster you control is destroyed. Special summon up to 2 Fortune Lady monsters from your hand during your next standby phase. So, pretty much they destroy it by effects or by battle. Play this, next turn get 2 free Fortune Ladies and they'll be able to level up. Such as Earth, Dark, you're probably going to go with like Dark and Water. Water to get the draw 2, and then Dark to probably get back the Fortune Lady that was murdered. So yeah, good card, 3 copies. I'd be surprised if you weren't running that at 3 copies. Fortune Lady Rewind, also at 3 copies. Target any number of banished Fortune Lady monsters with different names, special summon them, but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. You can only activate Fortune Lady Rewind once per turn. So, I'm pretty sure this will activate Light's effect where you could set this face down, then then activate the field spell, and then, do this if you so desired, and played Light and then got into an Earth. I'm pretty sure if you use this to get Light back when it leaves the field at the end of the turn, I'm pretty sure its effect will go off and you get another Earth, but I'm not so sure about that. Next up is 3 copies of Bending Destiny. When a monster would be normal summoned or a spell or trap is activated, while a face-up monster you control are Fortune Lady monsters, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, banish that card. The banished card is returned to the hand during the end phase of this turn. So pretty much, they try doing something to you, guess what? It's negated, and it goes back. So, it goes away. And then at the end of the turn, it gets back into their hand, but otherwise, it's basically useless. So either they wasted their only normal summon, if they somehow got past this, or they just wasted their only spell and trap that could possibly screw you over. So 3 copies. 3 copies of another card that banishes. Slip of Fortune. Also, this can be used against you if I'm correct. So, activate only when your opponent's monster is declaring an attack targeting a monster. Negate the attack and remove from play the attack target monster until the end of the next standby phase. So, pretty much, when they attack into you, use this, banish Light, and get out Earth. Literally, always try to banish Light, get Earth out of it, or get Dark out of it, or Water if you already have another Fortune Lady, but you're probably going to get one of these 2. Next up is 3 copies of Jar of Greed. Draw a card. Pretty much it. Just here to just get draws just in case, you don't get your draw engine. 3 copies of Jar of Avarice. Target 5 cards in your graveyard except for Jar of Avarice. Shuffle all 5 to the deck, then draw a card. You can only use 1 Jar of Avarice per turn. Pretty much here, just in case all your good cards that can get your stuff out of the graveyard end up in the graveyard, you can just get them back and draw a card out of it. So, really useful. 3 copies. 3 copies of Solemn Wishes. Increase your life points by 500 each time you draw a card or cards. Pretty much, you play this, summon Water, gain 500 life points. Play this, gain 500 life points. Play this, 500 life points. This, 500 life points. Effectively, play anything, 500 life points. So, 3 copies. Now into the extra deck. Rerun 3 copies of the Succeeds monster, and someone's going to ask why, and I'll get to it once I'm done explaining its effect. Number 49, Fortune Tune. So, level 3, or rank 3 actually, 400 attack, 900 defense, really weak card. He requires 2 level 3 monsters. During each of your standby phases, gain 500 life points. This card cannot be targeted by card effects. If this face-up card would be destroyed, you can ditch one seized material from this card instead. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, target 2 level 3 monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them both into the deck, and if you do, return this card from your graveyard to your extra deck. You can only use this effect of number 49, Fortune Tune, once per turn. So, this is here because, yes, since there's technically only 1 level 3 in this deck, it's going to be really hard to bring out. That is not entirely true. This deck has the ability to just increase the levels of everything on your field once per turn. So as long as they stay alive long enough, or if they die, as long as you have Dark, you can get them back, or you can use Solitaire Magician to just adjust their level to bring it out, you can get out this thing very easily. Just be smart about it, and you can get out a monster that constantly increases your life points. So when your opponent does get over your big, beefy beat stick, Dark and Earth, then you can at least have some life points to fall back on. So all around, decent card, and it can get itself back into the extra deck, but you're probably not going to use that ability that very often. But still, 500 life points for free, so 3 copies. Finally, our last card, and our Synchro monster that I love to use but hate to be against. Fortune Lady Every. So, level 7, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner spellcaster monster. This card's attack and defense becomes its level times 400. so this card's base power is already 2800. And once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card level by 1, max 12, and then you can banish one face-up monster your opponent controls during your opponent's end phase. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one other spellcaster monster from your graveyard, special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Fortune Lady every once per turn. So pretty much, if this card ends up in your graveyard during your opponent's end phase, this card can just get itself back as long as you're willing to banish another spellcaster. Pretty much, if any other monster's in your graveyard, just banish it to get this thing back. And it can just banish a monster your opponent controls for free, just by leveling up. So, really good card, 3 copies. So that was the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment any other decks or fight that you guys want to see us do, and blaze up the subscribe button. And don't forget to keep your souls blazing.